Russian culture is not necessarily well understood.
Can we travel, for example, by the subway or your project Hyperloop from Moscow to Hong Kong?
My dream is actually to be an ordinary person. I hope that the society and the world of 2100 will become a better
What do you think about this city?
Actually, this is not my first trip to Moscow. I actually designed one of the buildings next to the convention center here, the circular building with the numbers on it. So 10 years ago, I was coming to Moscow quite often. But what I like to say is Moscow has always been tremendously interesting for me. I think Moscow has a lot of mysterious feeling because I think Russian culture is not necessarily well understood, but when we arrive here and see the architecture and see the culture, Moscow is amazing. I think Moscow is really an amazing capital city for Russia, and during these 10 years I can see that many things have changed as well, and I think as an architect we always like to see how Moscow is improving and changing, and this time I'm seeing a lot.
Many urbanists consider Moscow subway as one of the best.
Yes.
What do you think about it? For example, the people who live in Moscow can travel from the city center to the nearest city around Moscow. What do you think? Can we travel, for example, by the subway or your project Hyperloop from Moscow to Hong Kong?
Well, I think two things I want to mention about the Moscow Metro. I think the Moscow Metro is a very, very interesting project, even though it's very old. I think the key thing about the Moscow Metro is it integrated art and culture with people. And I think many other cities around the world forget that in their metro they can have architecture, they can have culture, they can have heritage, and they can have art. So I think, riding on the Moscow Metro is actually an experience that people find unique. Now, your second question is about transportation. Yes, it is conceivable that one day we will have a underground or surface transportation which is fast enough to connect us on an intercontinental level. And the reason is that it will be very efficient, is that if you think about taking a plane from Moscow to Hong Kong, actually it takes a long time. It actually takes a long time at the airport. It actually takes a long time to taxi on the runway. It takes a long time to go up into the sky, and same coming down, everything. If you can save that time, that's maybe 10–20% of the journey. You factor that into a Hyperloop speed transportation, which is anything up to 500–600 kilometers per hour. You start to have something which is equivalent to an aircraft speed. And if we can make it affordable and make it very reliable and very accessible, maybe you can come to Hong Kong for lunch, and then I can come to Moscow for dinner. And that would be great. And connecting the world is, I think, one of the things that we will continue to improve doing, and designing the kind of infrastructure and new technology needed for that, I think will really change the way in which we live in different countries and be able to stay in touch.
What do you think flying houses is a reality for us or unreal dreams?
Flying houses are definitely coming, because already this year around the world in different cities you're starting to have flying taxis and flying drones that can have passengers in there. In a way, flying is not so difficult. It's just a matter of scale. Now we have the technology, now we have GPS, now we have AI navigation, and all of those things are making definitely the possibility of flying objects around the city. A house is easy, right? It's just a space that you can carry from place to place. So I think it's definitely coming. I think it will be a new generation of architecture where we are plugging in different houses to different towers, moving from place to place depending on the seasons. And it will be a very dynamic city that's created by flying architecture. For my projects, I'm looking to the future. Hopefully every Cybertecture I make is a piece of science fiction that becomes real. I hope my science fiction is also for the betterment of the world. And in doing so, I think I'm participating in the philosophy of science fiction for a better future for everyone.
What do you think about the image of the future, about the vision of our future, how media can form it today?
So I think the image of the future is not set. I think it is uncertain, but I think it is also wonderful because it is not yet written. I think we are all artists of the future. We are all painting the same painting of the future. Together, I think we can create a very optimistic future if we have the right values, if we can think about how to solve our problems. Our future can be bright and colorful. But if we are not positive in our values, if we're negative, we can also make a very ugly painting. So I think every moment we're all painting this drawing of the future, and I think it can be a very, very bright future, and I hope it will be a very bright future.
What is your dream?
My dream is actually to be an ordinary person. My dream is hopefully I am balanced. My dream is that I hope I do justice to the talents that God gave me. My dreams is to always be grateful for what I have. And then maybe a little bit more greedy, I hope that my life will mean something for my family and the world. That is my dream. So my philosophy of cybertecture is a philosophy based on how we can design a better world. I believe that cybertecture represents the design of the future, where we embrace all of the latest new technologies, the new science, the new strategies, and learn from the past to create something new. We believe at Cybertecture that we are laying the foundations for a better and more well-designed city and world for everyone. And it's a very exciting field to be in because I think it's almost like architecture version 2, where we can create things which are relevant to the future world that embraces sustainability, technology, and most importantly, the well-being of people.
And if we imagine, for example, we are talking in 2100, what can you see in the window, for example? What transport, what streets look like? Is there any homeless people or no?
I think in the year 2100, the world will be very different, but the world would also remain very complicated. It may not be a perfect world. We will still have happiness and unhappiness. We have people who are privileged and we have people who are less privileged. But we hope that by 2100, humanity has become wiser, learning from the last 100 years, learning about the changing world that we're in, discovering new technologies and science that can help us. We hope people who have illness like cancer, we hope they can be cured. We hope that people who have no shelter can have a home. We hope that in our relationships with each other, there will be platforms and technologies that help us to communicate and relate to each other better. But I think most importantly, my hope is that humanity realizes that we are not the only dominant species on this planet, that we are part of this planet and this nature, and that we should respect everything on this planet in the same way that we want the planet to respect us. And hopefully with all of these things, I hope that the society and the world of 2100 will become a better and more informed society than we are now. So one of the books that really inspired me is a book called The Fountainhead, written by Ayn Rand. It's a story about how an architect changed the world by believing that the world should be modern, should be technologically empowered, and by sticking to his convictions, he changed the world. So this is the book I recommend.